Hello and welcome to the Keto Mans Club Podcast.
We're glad you're here, where each week we talk about men's health and lifestyle.
We do so with the foundation of the ketogenic diet and lifestyle.
If you don't know what keto is, stick around and you'll find out.
The podcast will bring you real, honest fun.
Each week we strive to uncover the tips and tricks that you can use in your everyday life to maximize your overall health.
Find the clearest path to becoming the best version of yourself that you were meant to be.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Keto Mans Club Podcast. My name is Chris. I'm one of the hosts. As always, I'm joined by Jim and Alberto. How's it going, guys?
Going well.
Very good, sir.
Awesome. Well, we've got a great guest for you today. I hope that this episode will be very, very insightful and beneficial to the guys in the group. We're going to talk man stuff here in a bit. But before we do, what's new? Alberto, what's new in your world?
A lot, man. A typical work, but I say that every week, so I should got to come up with a better story. I actually submitted in a 5.5 minute audio clip to Dr. Sean Baker's Carnivore Success Story website. So that's kind of cool. We all went to NACA. We checked that out. Very first ever ketogenic bodybuilding show. That was cool. First one I've ever been to. So that was also very, very cool. Yeah, man. Other than that, I don't know. That's enough. That was a lot of things.
Yeah. The NACA competition was really cool to get to be there for that first one. It was small but mighty, so it was really cool. Jim, how about you?
Pretty good. I did something kind of stupid / painful about 2 months ago. I caught my leg between the inside, or caught it inside of a rowing machine and got twisted up and whatever and had this nasty bruise and everything. Well, now I have this like knot where that took place. And so the chiropractor's like, yeah, we probably need to take a look at that and see. And I've been trying to run more at the gym and different things. And it's one of those, you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, no pun intended, because this is a foot issue. But, so dealing with a little bit of that. And my gym is getting ready to do a 7-day hell week of intense 60 and 90-minute workouts that involve rowing, treadmills, and free weights. And I'm in it for the t-shirt. So that's pretty much, I just wanted to make sure that says I survived hell week.
Nothing wrong with that. I have done greater and lesser things for free t-shirts that weren't technically free because I paid to be a part of it.
There you go. What about you, sir? What's new with you, Chris?
Really, honestly, I've just been insanely busy, as is always the truth. Lots of podcasts, lots of side work, lots of hours at the day job. And so I'm just powering through, doing everything I can. I did post a video earlier this week talking about my intentions of trying to focus in a bit on things and try to make sure that I'm making decisions on a daily basis that meet my goals. We'll talk more about all that here in a bit. But yeah, that's kind of it's been relatively uneventful in that regard. NACA, of course, me and Alberto went together, so that was fun. But yeah, it's kind of been mainly just a lot of work.
Yeah, and getting a shout out from Danny Vega about and he knew my macros, which is, not that I don't post them, it's like public information, but for him to actually just call them out of the blue, I was like, wow, I must be doing something right.
yeah, that was a good moment. And he's like, Berto, are you here?
Yeah. And then I was up there with a mouthful of water. I'm like, no.
So yeah, it was great. It was great. So with that being said, let's do some shout outs. Jim, who do you have?
I have a gentleman named Travis White who put up a side-by-side photo in our group in mid-October. He started keto back in mid-January of 2019, 355. He is now at 238, stands about 6'1". He's aiming for the 210 range or so. But it's just a great side-by-side photo. Definitely, you can see it in the face and in the gut, and just pretty remarkable. So I don't think we've given Travis a shout-out before, so kudos to him for the hard work.
Absolutely. Berto?
I'm going to go with our old friend, and if you've been in the group long enough, he is our old friend, Jeremiah Schnell. he had bowed out gracefully, said he was having some issues, didn't really want to get into it. And then one day I get a notification saying that somebody wants, someone else wants to join the group. And right about that moment, I get a text message from Mr. Jeremiah saying, "Hey, I just rejoined the group. Let me in." And he posted about it. So, I mean, you can look back and see he went through some stuff, man. And then he called me and we talked about it for a while. And what he posted was the quick version of the madness he went through. But I'm glad he's back and glad we're going to be able to help support him and get him back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my favorite parts about this group is our camaraderie and working together and building each other up. And honestly, he could have stuck around, but he probably needed fewer things to focus on anyway. So that's all good. Yeah, that's all good. I am going to call out Brian. I'm probably butchering this last name, Mielke. He posted, on the 21st of October, talking about his story. He recently joined, so he essentially got the type 2 the type 2 diabetic diagnosis, and the doctor's like, "Oh, here's the meds. Here's what you're going to do. It's going to be for life. Woe is me. It's going to suck, but it's just kind of how it is," story. And he's like, "Screw that," and did research himself. And it was he has turned things around by doing research, by getting rid of the sugar, the grains, the processed food, the alcohol. And a few months later, he says his A1C is normal, but his doctor still called him diabetic. It's been 2 years now, and he finally admitted that that Brian had reversed it. He never took diabetic meds. He got down to 265. He's 6'8", so he went from 330 originally down to 265 and has been there for the last year. That's pretty awesome. But the biggest part is he took his health in his own hands. He took what the doctor said and he said, "We can do better." And he did better. And it's so great. So good on you, Brian, and good on you for doing what was right for you in the moment, not what was convenient. And Alberto, you know a little something about that.
Oh, I love a good anti-doctor story. But yeah, no, it takes effort. It takes commitment. You got to dig deep and you really got to figure out what you want to do, because it's easy enough to give up. I've been there where you just give up and be like, you know what, this is the way it's going to be. Then this is the way it's going to be. Just load me up full of meds and I'm going to walk through life like a zombie and feel as good as I feel. But to hit that moment where you decide to fight it all and take control again, that's a highly respectable action.
Yeah. Yep. And so he's done pretty darn good at this point. So before we go into our topic, let's go ahead and introduce our guest today. He's going to have some good perspective for us. We have Jonathan Shane. He is a keto coach. He is a ketonian. He works with Deeper State Keto and the Keto Savage crew, and he's a friend of ours. He's done some really cool things for himself and some of the people that he coaches in regards to trying to naturally encourage testosterone to do what it's supposed to be doing. And that's kind of one of the topics that we want to talk about today with him after getting his story. But, he's going to have some really good perspective for us being a coach on this topic. So here's the topic, and maybe this is the whole church lady thing. Oh, I'm getting verklempt. Here's the topic. So the idea is that there's a lot of people that are having problems with falling off the wagon. They get, I'll get right back up on it, but they're talking about it in the group. And so what are your feelings? What are your ways of dealing with the draw to other food, the reasons behind it, all of that type of stuff. And I want to start with John, get his feelings, and then we'll go kind of down the line.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. I've been in the group on Facebook for a while, and it's been cool to watch everybody's journeys and stuff. And so I appreciate being on the podcast for real. So really, I think for me, and one of my big things that I really try to focus on is male body dysmorphia and male body negative self-image. I think that plays a lot into our ability to stay on the wagon, if you will. And I'm totally we were talking about this earlier before we went on air, that idea of cheats or not cheats. And I don't like that word because it just creates this negative thought process that we put on ourselves. And we're like, oh, we're cheaters. Oh, so we're losers. Oh, so we should just quit. It's this domino effect that can happen from us talking to ourselves like that. And I think that that plays a big part in a lot of things. Like, so to give you an example, I really feel like I made a post about this the other day. People tend to binge eat or fall off the wagon, if you will, quote unquote, because they believe they have no self-control. I think that that is just wrong. I don't believe that. Why? Because even when you make a bad decision, you made that decision. You were in control. You're always in control. You make the choices you make. What you were lacking was self-empowerment because of how negatively you look at yourself. And so I think that the ability to stay consistent and the ability to stay on top of everything and stay on top of your goals is empowering yourself and realizing that you are in control, that you are capable, right? And I think that when you are self-empowered, you feel like you're in control. When you're in control, you care about it. And when you care about it, it makes it much easier to make the right choices. Like, for like me and Berto, for instance, like I haven't cheated on keto in 2 years and I don't ever plan on it. And I know he doesn't cheat. Why? Because it makes us feel like crap. If all we were was addicted to the sugar and said, oh, you know what? I'm not that good at this. I could talk myself out of being consistent with keto. I'm sure I could, but I refuse not to. I refuse to because I know that I'm in control and I empower myself to make food choices that will fuel me properly, right? And that's easier said than done a lot of the times. A lot of people struggle with building that confidence and that speaking to themselves positively and building that sense and self-awareness of empowerment. But that's really, for me, that's what I think is needed. I think for a healthy lifestyle and a consistent healthy lifestyle, it takes more of a mental shift than a dietary shift.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it for sure. Alberto, how about you?
Very well said. And that opening sentence there, man, that was some of the deepest stuff I've ever heard. And I'm not even being a smart ass this time. But no, I mean, it's different for everyone, right? Like I have a disease. I have a gastrointestinal disease. Sugars and grains and like say a cheat meal will literally put me down for days. And I don't mean like, I'll get a little gassy. And I mean, I'm talking about back pain, shoulder pain, knuckle. I can trace it from when I start eating exactly how long it's going to take for my joints to start aching, where it's going to go, where it's going to start, and where it's going to go next. It's happened. I've done it in the past. Just experiment, and that was one experiment I never want to do again. And you know, we got these people that are like, well, I'm going out of town and, you know, I'm going to experience this. Well, that's fine. But from my side is if I were to say go on vacation and participate in this meal because I'm on vacation, all that would do for me is make sure that I'm stuck in the hotel for the next 2 days, extremely uncomfortable. Yep. So I'm coming from a completely different place. And you know, whether you want to consider that an advantage or a disadvantage, that's a whole different conversation. But I also have the benefit of, for instance, you know, say my daughters come home from school and my wife gives them a snack and, you know, they're like, hey, Daddy, do you want a bite of this cookie? I can take the smallest bite of a cookie, be like, wow, that's a good cookie. And I have no desire to eat any more of it. It's like I got it, the sweetest of mouth. I saw what it tasted like. I'm like, wow, that is very tasty.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that tiny little bite. I don't need any more. You know, and that's just like I posted the other day. That's just how my brain works. You know, I'm very, very black and very, very white. And I don't have to have a shade of gray. I can operate my daily life in one of two lanes without having to merge in between them.
Berto, I want to comment real quick. And like, I think that what you just said is a great example of what I'm talking about. So like for you, it's like a sickness thing. It's much easier for you to say no. And I totally respect that. And, you know, but for like some people it's not. And I think that's where like the self-empowerment can come in because like, for instance, like I don't think it's self-empowerment for you to say no necessarily because you're saying no because it's going to make you feel bad. Now, you know you're strong, you believe and you're confident in yourself and your abilities. And so that gives you a sense of self-empowerment. But for me, like when it comes to dietary choices, when the self-empowerment comes in is when someone can either A, choose not to eat something because they know it won't fuel their body right and move on, or B, they're on vacation and they do decide to eat that thing or whatever they decide to eat because they're on vacation and they have the care enough in their body to refute any more cravings. They can enjoy that one meal and then move on with their goals. For me, like that's where self-empowerment really becomes a stronghold because like earlier when we were talking about like some people do have these quote unquote cheat days. Well, no, it's just a day where you're living your life and making a healthy lifestyle and choosing to do that. The ability to be empowered enough to make that decision once and then not give into the cravings later and continue towards your goals because you care enough to continue to do so, right, in yourself.
Absolutely. Any input, Jim?
Oh, sir. So I guess the one thing that I will chime in here is that when this group was created a couple of years ago, it was never to be the perfectionist group. The idea was that this is a group for guys who are familiar with keto in some way. This is not an intro group. We've kind of been a little bit lax in that in some of our newer members because they are getting more familiar with it, but they're kind of doing their homework before they take the test, so to speak. And this is kind of the group I envisioned was a little bit more of you taking the test, now you're going out into the real world with it kind of thing. But with that being said, there's always going to be a stumble. There's always going to be something that comes up that can knock you down. And this is not just in keto. This is in life in general. And it may not be for 6 weeks. It may not be for 6 years. Who knows when it's going to happen? Everybody's different. We have talked about this multiple ways, up one side and down the other in the group of about some guys can do dairy, others cannot. Some guys can do a cheat weekend, others do not. All these different things. This is not a matter of one is right, one is wrong, one is better, one is worse. It is just simply sharing. The goal of the group is to share the ideas, share the experiences. If it's something that has not worked for you, you are welcome to chime in and say, I tried that, it didn't work, whatever the case may be. What I don't ever want to see is belittling of people who are able to make changes for whatever reason. Some may be at the end of their keto goal. I will tell you one thing that I have said from day one. My 86-year-old grandmother makes the best homemade noodles for Thanksgiving, and it is flour and sugar and love and all that good stuff. I will not have that a spoonful of those at Thanksgiving, because when my grandmother's gone, I'm never going to have them from my grandmother again. So there are times when things happen that you just accept it, and you know what? If it means that you're going to go to the gym and run an extra half mile, if it means you're going to get right back on it the next day, if whatever it means, that is up to you, just like it is in life. So those are my more than 2 cents, but less than a dime thoughts.
Yeah. So my thoughts on this were outlined in a video that I made, talking about how I've not been super strict with my protocol lately, and I hadn't seen any major downside to it. I've not gained any weight. I've held where I've been, but I've also held where I've been whenever I know that I have weight to lose. And so I've got these, it's all about goals for me, and the laxness that I have had in making choices to eat off plan hasn't paired well with me reaching my goals, which I have another 30 pounds roughly to lose. So I need to somehow, choose to stay the course and hit that goal. So for me, that's really what it comes down to. And everybody's a little bit different, but I don't like the idea of cheating. I do like that I choose to eat off plan. If I'm going to refer to it as anything, that's what I'm going to refer it to. And the truth is, even adapting that to a degree, I am going to make choices to adjust the plan at times. So if I'm going to Italy, I'm going to eat Italian food. Just going to. It's going to happen because it's an experience I can only get while I'm in Italy. And so that type of thing is where I would make choices to adjust the plan accordingly. But when I get back to the United States, I go right back on. I eat just as strictly as I ever do. So that is just kind of the way it is. So thank you for this discussion. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully this will give, on some level, the people who hear it a kind of a last or semi-final word on this, because it does come up a lot. But hopefully this, if nothing else, it will give us a resource that we can give folks on. Here's the different thought processes on this. Whether you struggle a lot or don't struggle at all, there's the whole spectrum, and there's reasons for all of it. So let's go ahead and dive in. John, we've already given you your intro and kind of tested the waters with you, but let's go ahead and start at the beginning of John. Tell us a little bit about how you came up and your journey to finding keto, and then we'll go from there.
Ooh, okay. So I have about 7 years of diet and nutrition and fitness experience. Started with fitness and getting into all of it when I was 15 years old, 14 years old. I was 259 pounds, 50-inch waist. I mean, I was nothing but blubber and skin and bones, and and organs too. I forgot those. And I just decided at that point, like, that my doctor scared the life out of me. She literally was like, if you were 50, we'd have you on like 10 different prescription meds. Like, that's how bad your blood is. Freaked me out. So I remember I went home that day and I ran 2 miles, made myself pass out, puked, cut my hand, cutting a banana for a protein shake. I remember that whole day like it was yesterday. I really do. It's crazy. But that just set me off. I just started working out and all this. And then, because of the bullying and the overweightness, when I started to lose weight, people started to accept me more. I started to, get dates and blah, blah, blah in high school. And so, I associated me being skinny with being accepted. And so my body dysmorphia started to manifest. And that ended up leading to bulimia. And I struggled with bulimia to be honest, I think you always struggle with eating disorders once you get them. But it was something that I was fighting ferociously for years. And then, I got married later on. And then I found we were in the high protein, and I was yo-yo dieting bad. And then I think it was August of 2017. I stumbled upon keto for the second time. I tried it a couple years back, right when the first keto bars came out. But I didn't stick to it, and it made me feel terrible because I knew nothing about electrolytes, and all I was eating was keto bars and Jif peanut butter. It was a terrible experience.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And so about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I found it again. I wanted to finish losing weight. I was stalled, did keto. It went great, but not only that, but it got me off my ADHD medication. It made my shoulder pain go away, and it just helped give me so much focus. And so I decided, I tried to cheat. I think Christmas of 2017 was the last time I had a carb-laden meal, and it made me feel so bad that night I decided I would never cheat on keto again, and I've never looked back.
That's amazing.
Yep. Yeah, it's been quite the journey. You go into really great detail on it with one of your clients who shall not be named. Everybody knows this client, Mike Gorman. He's one of our good friends, and
rhymes with like.
Yeah.
Sorman.
No, he's a good friend of ours, and the Fat Guy Forum. You guys talk a lot about your story and how you came through, and all of that. I really enjoyed that episode and getting to hear your story, and it was one of the things that definitely reinforced my desire to get you on the podcast for sure. So let's talk about some of. Let's get into numbers and things like that. So what was you were up and down a lot at your heaviest? What were you? What were blood markers like and things like that? And maybe after you kind of had it together, what did that look like? But then now that you've been keto and on top of things, where are we at?
Oh man, that is a loaded question. I don't know if we have enough time on this podcast for that. So my heaviest, I was 259, but I was 14. I was 5'8", 259, 50-inch waist. I was a big dude at 250 pounds because I had no muscle. I was 14 years old. I hadn't lifted twigs. I mean, and my cholesterol was 380, but it wasn't the grass-fed steak, grass-fed butter kind of cholesterol. It was the too hot and spices with extra mayo cholesterol, it wasn't good. And my triglycerides were over 200, and I was just in a really bad place.
Were you the big kid in your family, or were others in your family?
Oh, dude. So it's actually funny. So genetically, if you see me now and you saw my family, you would think I was adopted. Okay. They're all skinnier arms, big bellies. When I think I was bigger than any of my brothers when I was that big. I was 14. I was 260. I was 5. I'm the tallest out of all my brothers. So yeah, I was definitely the big guy. I was the big boy. And of course my family is football fans. So they were excited. They're yeah, we got a big dude, they were feeding me extra food, fattening up the pig before Thanksgiving kind of thing. But yeah, so I was definitely one of the bigger guys. And then I think I'll say this, it's actually, this is where it gets interesting. So physically I was at my best, probably when I was, I'd say 21, 20. So about 3 years ago, I was maintaining visible abs. I was, but the problem was I was yo-yo dieting a lot. And, I would have like 6 days straight of 1,400 calories. And then I would have a cheat day that was like 6,000 calories. And I would do that every week. And a lot of those cheat days would turn into binges and then purges. And so my bulimia would always come back up. Just because of the negative self-image and the fat phobia and all of that. And so it's funny now that I'm keto. So keto got me to the leanest I've ever been. I was like 7% body fat, competed at a natural bodybuilding show, got third place. That kind of paved the way for what I do now, like my nutrition coaching and me being an amateur natural bodybuilder is all because of that prep. So that was my leanest in keto. But now I would say I'm at my healthiest I've ever been overall today. Talking to you guys is probably the healthiest I've ever been in my life. And do I have more body fat than I used to 3 years ago? Sure. My reverse diet sucked. I did terrible after my prep. I gained a bunch of body fat back. So physically, I'm just extremely muscular. I'm way more muscular than I used to be. But am I as lean? No. But for me, I've developed such a sense of self-worth and self-empowerment and self-confidence in who I am and what I've overcome and the goals that I've accomplished and had set, and I pushed through and did them even though it made me uncomfortable. I have those things that I never had before. And so I would say in terms of mentally and physically, for me, this is where I'm at right now is probably the healthiest I've ever been in my life. Sorry for the long answer.
No, that's fine. We've got quite a bit more time to dig in, but we've got some other topics to do. Alberto, you got anything?
I just wanted to say, speaking about that, I think the last time we saw each other was Austin for KetoCon. And then obviously we bumped into each other up in Dallas at NACA. And after we talked and shook hands and hugged and broed out, as you're walking away, I look at Chris, I'm like, man, this guy got big. You got big. I know you've been bulking and lifting weights and I've seen the videos of you putting up some serious numbers, but it's showing, man. You got big compared to where you were
I
at KetoCon.
appreciate that, bud. Appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely showing some mass, and that's not a bad thing in this case. So you don't look bad by any means.
So I want to ask about bulimia, because it's something that I don't think that we have talked about in this podcast before, nor do I think we've really ever had much discussion about it in the group on Facebook also. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but a lot of people associate that with bulimia or with women, that it is a lot of women deal with that. So where did you realize that you were bulimic? What got you there, and what did you have to do to get out of that lifestyle? I don't even know if lifestyle is the right word, but I don't know, what would you call it?
It was definitely a lie. It's funny. You wouldn't think that something as simple as throwing up food you had just ate would consume you as much as it does. But that's the reality of it. So to give a quick build up, I lost all the weight, felt acceptance, developed body dysmorphia that if I felt like I gained a little too much weight, that no one was going to like me. And so literally the idea of gaining a pound scared the hell. It scared me. And I was eating one day and I got really fed up and I felt like I overdid it. And at this time I'm starving myself a lot. So when I overate, it was just because my body just needed food. It needed to be fed. But I didn't understand any of this. I'm 15 years old. So I just started stuffing my face and I felt bad. And one day I just wanted to get it back out. I was done. I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw up. And I threw up, and I remember the first time I did it, it was disgusting. All that coming back up. But then the after feeling, the feeling of being empty and not having to worry about it anymore. That became an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so that literally consumed me for years. Was I looked forward to the feeling of emptiness I would feel after binging and throwing it back up. I would look forward. It was like a hit of cocaine to me. And it got bad. At first it was maybe once or twice a week. And then it got to the point where it was every night, 2 times a day. Sometimes I would puke at school, eat my school lunch and go throw up in the toilet. And it wreaked havoc on my body. I lost a lot of muscle mass. I got really tiny. It got down to below 170. I'm 5'11", so I was a twig. It got really bad. And there's a couple things that helped me get over it. One, my family found out, and that made me a lot more conscious of it because I knew it felt like I was doing something wrong because I would hide it. But when I saw the disappointment on their faces, and then after that, when I went to my dad's house for the weekend, it would smell my breath every time I came out of the bathroom. Embarrassing stuff like that, And so like that really gave me some self-awareness. And then I found my faith when I was 16, and that really radically changed the way I viewed life, like who I was, my worth, my value, the way that I felt God saw me as a child of Jesus. And like, you know, the fact that I'm this guy's temple, and how would I feel if I built this pretty beautiful temple in a very unique way and someone took a bucket of hydrochloric acid and dumped it on it and just started like melting it, right? Like that would bother me. I worked really hard on that. That's a unique temple that I made. And so being able to make those connections and realize that I was this uniquely made thing and I shouldn't trash myself really solidified and cemented in me and allowed me to start questioning myself. Now, that being said, it was not easy. That did not change things overnight. I think, you know, I found my faith when I was 16, and I struggled with bulimia hardcore till I was 21. Like, it didn't go away for like 4 years. Like, but it was a battle that I was now consciously trying to fight. Keto really helped me, to be honest with you, like, because it allowed me, sugar is just so addictive that it's really easy to binge eat it, which triggers my want to purge, really. Whereas with keto, my blood sugar is regulated. I have control over my food, and it made it much easier to analyze things and really dig deeper. Because at the end of the day, the bulimia was not the foundational issue. It was a symptom of the fact that I was not okay with where I was currently in life at any point in time. Because if I was okay with it, I wouldn't react in such a negative way. So keto allowed me to stop binging, which allowed me to stop purging, which allowed me to take a step back and look at the truth, which was that I did not like myself. And then I was able to learn to love myself, which empowered me to stay away from those things. And that's why I always say that, like, it's ignorant to say that you're completely rid of an eating disorder. Like, don't get me wrong, you can make that voice so quiet that it's almost non-existent, and you can say I'm over it and I've defeated it. Great. But you don't think that if you let those negative thoughts back in your head, you wouldn't go back to it? Of course you would, right? But you've just learned to keep those voices very quiet. And so I'm at a place now where I'm constantly trying to build myself in confidence and trying to focus on the fact that food is fuel and finding other ways to de-stress and enjoy life. And yeah, so yeah.
Very interesting, because the empty feeling is what I was curious about in particular. Because I've had a couple of friends that have gone through bulimia, and they've talked about it almost as like a relief, and it's out of their system. So when you said it was like a hit of cocaine, I'm like, yeah, I've heard a similar type thing from that, which is crazy to me.
And I just want to say, like, and here's the thing, is that like there's a lot of guys that deal, and I hope this doesn't like ruffle feathers, but it's something that people need to think about. Like bulimia, for two things. One, it is very apparent in men. And it's sad that we live in a world that the idea of being a man is not showing emotion. When I think, for me, I have found that being a man is having the guts to show your true emotions and talk about your struggles, right? Like, then you're confident enough in yourself to just share what the hell's going on, you know? Whereas if you're not, then you don't, and it just gets swallowed up. And so many men struggle with this kind of thing, but it's not talked about. It's only talked about in the females, right? It's like not very apparent in the males, but it is apparent in the males. It's just not talked about. And the second point is that bulimia comes in all forms. Like, if you binge eat and then you go run on the treadmill for 2 hours to make up for it, I'm sorry, that is a form of bulimia. You're purging out what you binged. If you eat terribly, if you eat 10,000 calories and so you fast for 3 days straight, for me, that's a form of binging and purging. Now, if you feel terrible, so you fast for a couple days to reset your system, that's different. But when someone goes in their head, I overate, I need to punish my body and not feed it to make up for that, that's an eating disorder. And that's something I think people need to be aware of in any group or any setting.
Yeah, that's good stuff. You just said something that kind of struck a chord with me, and again, I had written a comment on it in the group the other day. It was expressing emotions. I am admittedly 100% terrible at expressing emotions. My dad is terrible at expressing emotions. We just don't. And like it's as dumb as this sounds. Like, I don't know how. This caveman brain of mine, Jim had posted about having a bad day at work, and it really got to him. I'm literally standing in my kitchen reading this post, gritting my teeth and getting angry. Like, I've never met Jim in person. He's a friend of mine, obviously. We talk once a week. But my physical response to that post, I got so mad that the hair was standing on my arms. I was clenching my fists and gritting my teeth. And then I was sitting there like, this ain't right. But I'm now aware. like, I don't know how to fix it yet, but I'm becoming aware that how I process emotions isn't normal and it's not right. And I'm not like physically acting these things out, which is obviously very, very important. And this is just one of those things that has come a long way since being part of this group and just watching, these thousands of guys just kind of put all this stuff out there. And, for a while, I understood none of it. But I've been just slowly like, okay, well, let's read what this guy posted. Try to put yourself in his shoes. And I'm slowly trying to figure out a way to work my way through it. But yeah, what you just said right there, and that really struck a chord with me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not hiding it by any means. I've had issues lately that I've been dealing with, and I've been seeing some counseling, and we kind of identified that even though I'm a fairly emotional person on some level, I only allow certain emotions out, and I only allow myself even to acknowledge them sometimes. And so we're talking about, that brick wall that I built up around them and how I can tear them down a little bit and how I can let myself get out what's on the inside. And that's just a better thing in general, but it is something that we are just, I didn't even have a dad in the house growing up, and it's still ingrained in me. Like, I grew up with 2 moms. So what's that all about? That's the thing, it's like, it wasn't even modeled for me, but it still was something that got into my head somehow, that machismo, that idea of, we can't be emotional beings because we're men. And so that's a big deal for me. And I'm glad that that came up, because I think that we need to allow ourselves to be emotional people, because that's how we are. We are emotional. That is, to echo John's spiritual, journey that he's on. We are made in the image of God. God has emotion. He has that, and he had put that in us. It's one of the things that sets us apart from other creation. So at least I believe so. So that's just kind of my point on that. That leads us all into one of the specific topics that we wanted to bring John on into, is because one of the things that he has successfully been able to do with himself and with some of his clients, is that he's been able to use natural means of moderating the body's hormone systems, specifically testosterone. So talk to us a little bit about the background, then we can kind of go from there.
Okay. This is the fun part. This is the juicy part. So I would say halfway into my off season this past year, I think it was in February, I started to think about testosterone and androgen receptors. I was really into understanding the best way to optimize keto muscle building on a strict, because I don't carb cycle. So I was like, okay, how can I build muscle without carbs, right? And so I started getting into like androgen receptors and hormones, and I wanted to know where I was at hormone wise, because I just got to have a prep. I was in pest control for 3 years prior to quitting and doing coaching full time. A lot of pesticides, a lot of phytoestrogens. I was just very curious of where I was at. So I got my testosterone and my cholesterol checked, and I was expecting to be average male, because I put on a little strength. I felt like I was pretty jacked. I had no idea what jacked was back then, but I felt that way. And so I got the test back, and they were nothing like I thought. I actually had a diagnosis for what's called hypogonadism. And that's where, for whatever reason, there's something going on between your pituitary gland, your hypothalamus, and your brain, and your testes. The communication is somehow messed up for whatever reason, and you're literally not producing testosterone at almost an adequate level whatsoever. I think my total testosterone at that time was 162 nanograms per deciliter, and my free was 9.2 nanograms per deciliter. And my sex hormone binding globulin was like in the high 90s. It was like stupid high. My body was totally jacked up, and it was hard. It was hard. It gave me a lot of perspective though. It gave me a perspective towards how other men feel about their testosterone. You don't want to tell anybody. You just want to bottle up and cry. It's so hard to see a number that reflects that what makes you a man isn't working. Yeah. And so I got really clear perspective on where my clients were that struggled with that, and where other people are I actually understand how they felt, because I felt it. I felt that depression and that feeling of I'm not even a man anymore. I got to fix this. And of course my head started racing to, I'm just going to be IFBB pro ketogenic bodybuilder, because I'm going to start stabbing myself, and I was ready to go all the way. and and just trying to like wrestle with all that and figure all that out. So that's how it started. That's how that journey started.
So I've made no qualms about sharing that. I've been, I was diagnosed with low T I was diagnosed with it three or 4 years ago. I finally got onto a really good protocol with a good doc about 2.5 years ago, and I'm up into the 900s total and 900 plus total on a regular basis and things like that. Now, I started out like you in the hundreds, like it was like 150 or 180 or something. I don't even remember. I don't have those labs anymore, so I can't. I'd have to. I might be able to look them up, but I'm not sure. But yeah, it was no good, and so I've gotten on, and I went the traditional route. I went the way that you were saying, you just start stabbing yourself. Well, I give myself 2 weekly injections, and that doesn't include my HCG, to try to manage my hormone levels. You took a different route. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I did. And let me first disclaimer, like, and this isn't just towards you in particular, but in the group, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking TRT if you need to. Like, we happen to have brilliant minds in this day and age, and that stuff was obviously invented for a reason, and it has purpose. If you need to take it and it works for you, my only thing is like make sure that you're educated on it. You know what you're getting yourself into, because for most people that get on TRT, it's almost impossible to ever get off.
That's my understanding, and I that's honestly been why I haven't like sat down with you, gone over my blood work, and said, okay, I'm gonna detox for a couple months. Let's see where we are. And then, I don't want to go through the 6 months of feeling like crap, because I know that's exactly what's going to happen on some level, because I have been, feeding my body, a bioidentical hormone for this while, this long while. And it's been 2.5 years. So yeah, chances are I probably won't, get back to full production, again. And so that's been my only delay. I'm not hiring you as a coach in that regard, because I totally would rather go a natural route than not.
Yeah, and I totally get that, and that's something I haven't worked with. It'd be fascinating. I would love to guinea pig you, but I totally understand. But like before I go into the natural thing, I just want people to know that like if you're taking TRT right now to help with that, I don't like disapprove of that. Like don't feel bad. Don't want any think I have negative feelings towards synthetic use. Okay, so that being said, so I decided I did a lot of thinking, and I said, okay, I'm an influencer, right? I have, especially this was after KetoCon. After KetoCon, I realized it was before KetoCon, but I realized that okay, I'm this influencer. My words have power. What I do, the choices I make to make myself more athletic, bigger, whatever, they hold weight in people's eyes. And I'm a very bluntly honest person. So I had to sit down and go, okay, am I going to take synthetic hormone and be honest about it? Because I will be, and deal with that. Or I'm going to try and figure this out first. And then if it doesn't work, then, I'll go balls to the walls, no pun intended. So I decided to go the natural route, and I started digging deep, man. I mean, I was asking people it's funny. I asked Danny Vega and all of them, and they were all telling me about the Juve light. That's when the Juve light was really hot. And I was like, I am not putting my parts under a red light and hoping that my testosterone raises. I don't understand that. I'm not spending $400 on it. I love you guys, but no.
Yeah. That Juve, the ultraviolet, that thing is freaking expensive. I would totally go for it, but I would, if I was to do it, I would want the full, the full length one, because if I'm going to do it, I might as well get whole body coverage.
Exactly. So I'm just waiting till I get enough fame to where they just give me one for free. But until then, I'm never going to get a Juve light. So I decided to go another route, and I started looking and researching. And I actually had a friend, who's actually a female, one of my best friends now. Her name is Frida. She's a neuroscientist, and she had access to a bunch of documents that at the time I didn't have access to. And I started talking to her about things that increase testosterone. And then that's when I got into herbs and funguses and nootropics and all of these powders and mixes, which we can get into if y'all want to, would help me. And so I started taking them. I started off with a testosterone supplement that had particular doses of each of these herbs in it. And that helped a lot. I took that for 2-3 months, and my total testosterone went from 162 to 400, and my free went from 9 to 40. So nice little bump. I wasn't, I was like, oh, okay, so these herbs actually help. So then I got really down and dirty. I literally bought the pure extracts of every single one. I microdosed it myself. I'm talking like 8 different herbs plus boron. And I did that every single day for like 4 months. And at the end of this whole like 5-month journey, my testosterone went from a total of 162 to 793, which I was cool with the total 793. But my free is what I really liked. My free went from 9 to 124. Yeah,
And I want to pause for a second. What is an ideal range for that second number? Because that's the one that I am not so familiar with.
Oh, free testosterone? I think it's anywhere between I could be wrong about this. It's like 130, 140 to like 80, somewhere in there.
I'm actually looking at some of my old labs right now because I've got the general lab. Now let's talk about.
I know total is 300 to 1,000. I do not remember what free is.
Yeah, this one doesn't have my free. We always have to calculate it manually. That being said, let's so it's something like that, and higher free is good. It is absolutely good. Okay. What it is the difference between how much estrogen you have versus testosterone, because they cancel each other out to a certain degree, and so you want that ratio to be healthy. So the higher the number, the better the ratio.
Yeah. And the free testosterone is 47 to 244.
So you're right in the middle of it at this point.
I'm right. Well, as of 3 months ago, I have no idea where I'm at.
Okay, so let's talk about labs, because you're doing this on your own. How are you getting lab work done? When you get it done?
Any lab test now. You Google any lab test now. You put in your zip code, and it will give you the one closest to you. You pay like $70 to get your sexual hormones, and then you go and get it tested. They draw your blood 24 hours. The results pop up on your email.
That's pretty cool. And so. For the men out there that are like, well, but I don't have health insurance, there's still options. You can still check to see how you are. And I am probably actually going to get here soon. I'm not due for my normal blood work for another month or two, but I've been feeling like my estrogen's been a little out of whack. And so whenever I start feeling that, I'm probably going to go get some lab work on demand, so to speak, done real quick to just get it done. So, so it is possible to get blood work done without having a primary doctor that supports testosterone replacement or any of this stuff. You can get the facts, and that's an important thing to know. So let's dive in a little bit. Let's talk about some of the key herbs and elements that you're using and what their effects are in general. The other thing that we should probably let people know is do your own research. Make sure this is going to be health for you. Don't take the information given on this particular podcast episode as gospel truth, because what may work for John, what may work for a small subset of people may not affect you the same way. So make sure that whenever you research this stuff for yourself, that you find a protocol that's actually going to work for you. Let's go into some of these elements that you're taking that have been helping and supporting your journey.
Yeah, for sure. And let me just reiterate. Let me just say what he said again. This is not medical advice. I am very weary. I think I've sent one human my actual dosages. I never sent somebody exactly what I took, because it might not be what's right for you. So I think that was great advice. So this is not medical advice, but I do know some stuff. Okay, so there's a couple things we have to look at, right? We have to understand how testosterone is produced. Pituitary gland reacts with the hypothalamus. They produce luteinizing hormone in a chain reaction that sends luteinizing hormone to the testes and to the adrenal glands, which both are told to produce some testosterone. And in males, the adrenal glands produce very little, testicles produce most, and then women, adrenals produce most, and ovaries produce a little. So what can happen, generally, a lot of the times, it's not that your testicles don't work, it's that there's a communication problem, okay? So that's why nootropics are so beneficial to testosterone production. So the first two I ever started taking powder were cordyceps and reishi mushrooms. Bulk supplement, super cheap. Taking I think 1,000 grams a day, something like that for me. There was a study that talked about these cyclists that took 1,000 grams of each before their training, and it showed that they had a 30% increase in testosterone after their training session. Some of that percentage is due to the actual workout itself, raising testosterone and other hormones for activity, but obviously there's an increase. So I said, okay, let's do that. Now you ask, how does that work? So basically what those two do is they help with blood flow then they also help with neurological connections. And so they help with neurons sending signals to each other, which can help with the communication between the pituitary gland, hypothalamus, and then all the way to the testes. So those are the first, and even for just brain health, I would encourage anybody to take some reishi and cordyceps every day. It literally tastes like garbage, but it's so good for you. The next ones are the ones that get a little like, this is stuff you really need to research. So ashwagandha is a big one. A lot of people know what ashwagandha is. You have a Central and you have KSM 66. They're both different kinds of strands. I took the KSM 66. It's more aggressive. It's a more aggressive strand, where Central is more of like a calm strand in simple terms. So I took the KSM 66, which has been shown over and over again to help with producing testosterone. It has a lot of aphrodisiac effects, things like that. And then where it gets really weird is we have things like the shiitake mushroom, and then longtail, and then long jack, and these little herbs that have been shown to increase testosterone. So really, I tried to find herbs that I had multiple studies that had evidence of increasing testosterone, and I just bought them. That's basically how it started. I just dug through okay, if it has 10 research papers and it's all evident, I'm going to take those. And so those were all for total testosterone. A couple ones that I can't really spell and I can't pronounce, but basically they're medicinal Chinese herbs that are used in fungi, along with ashwagandha, cordyceps, and reishi. And those were really good for total testosterone, right? Now we get into the free, and this is key. I will tell you this. You can have decent total, but if your free is low, it doesn't matter how high you make your total. Because what's happening is due to whether you're chronically dieting or chronically stressed, you have this thing called sex hormone binding globulin that binds to testosterone in your blood. Free testosterone is testosterone that's not binded by sex hormone binding globulin. And so if you have a total of 400, I don't even know if I'd encourage you to get more total if you're freeze jacked. I'd rather you focus on free, because if you have 400 total and you get to 200 free, that's as good as a guy that has 1,000 total and 200 free. You both still have 200 that's floating around that's going to be using androgen receptors for muscle building, etc. So then we have to go, well, then what increases free testosterone? So you have certain herbs and minerals that act as aromatizers. Aromatizers are basically compounds that release sex hormone binding globulin from the hormones it's attached to. So things like nettle root extract and boron are the two that I used. Very strong, potent aromatizers that work very well. So those are the only two that I used, was the nettle and the boron. And they act as aromatizers, which means they basically take away they lower the sex hormone binding globulin and allow for more testosterone to be free. Now, here's something to think about though, and do your own research, but hear me out on this. If you're going to do this, it's smart to have either take some DIM supplement, or at least have one meal a day where you're including, I would say, go with cauliflower, but you can do cauliflower or broccoli. DIM basically metabolizes estrogens, because what you'll find is if you have a good supplement that frees free testosterone, it also aromatizes estradiol as well, because estradiol is binded by sex hormone binding globulin. So if you have something that just releases that, it can raise both. So having something that can metabolize the estrogens in your blood is important. So yeah, that's something to think about as well. But yeah, those are supplements that I took. And I would say two other things that I really give a lot of bonus points to throughout this process was I almost completely removed all plant matter, and I focused on eating a lot of red meat. And the reason why that's important is because red meat has zinc, creatine, has so many things that help with the testosterone production process. It's got the healthy fats and cholesterol. It's got all that stuff. And the problem is that plant matter tends to make meat nutrients malabsorbed. What I mean by that, there was a study done where they had a guy eat a steak and he absorbed 95% of the zinc, or somewhere in that range. And then they had him eat the steak with salad and it went down to 35. It tanked. So there's something that happens with plant cells and plant matter that inhibits the absorption of some of the minerals and vitamins in meat. So I would say have one carnivorous meal. You don't have to make but I would recommend that one meal have no plants in it at all and just be a nice amount of beef. And that can make a huge difference. And then also sunlight. I'm telling you, the sun, vitamin D is one of the most important hormones. And I started going outside 20 minutes every day, and I give it 60% of what went right was getting out in the sun. I really think that there's something magical about getting out in the sun. We say plants have photosynthesis. I think we do have photosynthesis. I think we were designed to soak sun. There's things that just happen when we do. So those are all those things included is how I really did what I did.
Now, have you documented any of this so far, whether it's just for yourself and your clients, or what have you put any resources together in this type of sphere?
I have not. When I first figured it out, I wasn't very confident in like telling people about it. But as I've been going through school and stuff, I've been learning more. And I do want to put something together, but I have not yet. I have all the information. I have my dosages. I have what does what. I have all of my test results.
Cool.
So with all of this information that you've shared, can you tell us a little bit about what you are doing for your clients and what are they seeing similar results? I mean, obviously this is a case-by-case thing, but can you kind of describe what you are providing your clients to help them feel better, lose weight, all the above?
Of course, yeah. So with my coaching, it really depends on the person whether I do intuitive eating or macros, but I'll like do whatever I feel like you can mentally sustain because I'm really big about making it just a diet but a lifestyle. So we'll figure that out. We'll set up goals. And then like my males that struggle with hormones, there's going to be a lot more of like, I'm going to help them set up and schedule meals in a way that, like I said, like eliminate veggies. Sometimes I'm going to be encouraged because like I'm very much like not just a nutrition coach in my eyes. Like I'm a life coach. I'm going to try it because I feel like, chronic stress and not being able to decompress and deal with life in a healthy way affects your weight loss. And so I'm really big on dealing with that too. And so, we're going to focus on that. We're focused on, de-stressing, finding time to get out in the sun, finding time to relax, lower the cortisol levels, allow your body time to focus on communicating with everything to get the right hormones built. And then also, so with actual testosterone, almost all my clients send me blood tests if they have them. And I ask for them, like, do you have blood tests? Send them to me. I love to look over them and figure out like what we can do dietary to help your numbers. With testosterone, like it does come down to what does your free look like? What is your total? Depending on those numbers, I'm going to recommend, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to recommend particular herbs for you to take to help. And then obviously we'll check every 2 or 3 months and then we'll reevaluate and regroup. But it's really a case-by-case basis. But I'll make sure that the herbs I'm giving you are to uniquely deal with where you're at as an individual.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more in general about your coaching services. We'll kind of wind things down because we've taken enough of your valuable time tonight. Tell us a bit more about what that coaching is, kind of the forms that it takes, where people can get in contact with you, all of that.
Okay, yeah. So I basically, it's one-on-one coaching. You get daily check-ins, weekly macro updates, unlimited phone consults. And so, I mean, I have like a 1-month program or a 3-month at a time program. And like, basically there's no contract. I mean, I want you to come to me if you want to come to me. I don't want to lock you in. I don't want to hold your hand. Like, I don't want to hold your hand. Like, I want to be there for you to help and give you the tools you need to succeed. But I'm not there to like lock you in. Like, I want people to be able to just come and renew as they would like to. So that's how that's set up. In terms of where they can get the coaching, so I know I'm a DSK coach right now, but starting November 1st, 2019, I will no longer be a DSK coach. I'm actually opening up my own nutrition coaching business. So the ketoroad.com is where they would go to sign up with me for coaching. It's already up and running. So if they hear this before November 1st, or they won't, but if they did, it'd be up. But, so that's where you can find us on the ketoroad.com. I've got like a what is keto page. If you just want to get started and you want a little list of foods and like I have 5 general rules. Like if you're just starting keto, you don't want a coach, you just want to figure this thing out. Here's 5 rules to follow. Here's a list of foods you can eat, not eat, and what you should limit. And then it's got like all my media outlets. I'm on Instagram at the Keto Road. I'm on TikTok at the Keto Road. I'm at YouTube, the Keto Road. Twitter, Keto Road. Everything Keto Road. And then I also have 7-day health devotion. So I don't know how many of the guys listening to this are spiritual, but if you really want to challenge how God views you and your relationship with food, that's what that devotional is catered towards. It's very challenging, some of them. It gets harder as you go into it, but it's a good devotional. So those are things I have on the website. That's where you can find me.
Very cool. Well, any other questions? Any parting shots, Jim or Alberto?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure, because we went over a lot of information here, but what I want to do is kind of maybe break it down just a little simpler, just for like the average dude that say listens to this on a Thursday and wants to do something on a Friday morning to at least get in the right direction of everything we just talked about. So like my takeaway is, if you had like top 2 or 3 things, I'll tell you what my takeaway is, and then you maybe add a supplement. But I would say the top 2 or 3 things from what I just heard you say would be beef, sunlight, and I'm going to assume sleep plays a very important role in that too.
Yeah. So, okay, I got you. So do you want me to summarize the whole podcast in like a sentence?
There you go.
Okay, I got you. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? This is about to be fire. Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm not ready. Hold on. Okay, now I'm ready.
Okay. Have confidence in yourself. Know who you are. Eat more beef. Eat less plants. Get some sun. Take some deep breaths.
That works.
Word.
And that's
Done.
all.
Mic drop.
And that's all stuff that you can do today, right now, and that's really cool.
That's all stuff you can do
Exactly.
right now. You could literally go, you know what? I've been doing this for X amount of time. I am capable. I am strong. And you know what? I can do something to fix this because I am capable. I'm just going to go eat a steak and nothing else right now. And you know what? Tomorrow, I'm going to go for a walk when the sun rises. I'm going to get out in the sun, and I'm going to take a couple deep breaths, and I'm going to start my day strong because I'm worth it. Boom. Great way to start.
Yeah, and all those little things add up. I mean, life is stressful. You know, like you were saying, you just do these couple little things here and there, and I try to make time to do it. You know, I got a very stressful job, and there's times where like I'm in a very loud environment. It's pretty much a construction site that I work at for cars. And there's times where I'll just walk outside, walk to the end of the parking lot, stand in the sun, start sweating, get a couple deep breaths in, kind of regather myself. Like, all right, back to the madness. And
that's
you
why
need
you're
those
so
little
swole.
things. Yeah. It's 100% that mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we know where folks can get on pretty much the keto road everywhere, and that's awesome. That's phenomenal. How many days a week are you putting stuff on YouTube? I know that I'm seeing it every now and again. I just don't remember what the frequency is.
Right now, it's once a week, and the reason is because YouTube isn't my big outlet, so I just try to get something out once a week. My bigger outlets are Instagram and like TikTok is like, and I don't know why, but that's like, that is my biggest platform right now. I don't understand it, but it is. But yeah, so like just once a week, I'll either put out a vlog or I'll put out like a tutorial video on like 3 steps to keto, where I like this 2-part fat series where I talk about fatty acids and where to get them and stuff like that.
Yeah, saw those, and I do think that they are some great resources for folks. So if people wanted to follow me, I am Duckman Keto on Instagram and on Facebook. We're all in the Keto Mans Club Facebook group, so that's a great way to get in contact with us as well, and myself included. For my personal stuff, I'm Duckman21 on Instagram, and that's pretty much it from me right now. Alberto, how about you?
All my workout and keto related stuff is at the Keto Cholo on Instagram. All my automotive shenanigans and cool pictures of me painting the latest motorcycle I'm working on is at _painter. But the easiest way to get a hold of me is obviously the Keto Mans Club.
Jim, you're up next.
The Keto Mans Club, again, Facebook, Instagram, all of those good things. Speaking of Insta, at Jim Inman Jr. I am not nearly lively and full of social media things lately, so I apologize for that. But just the main thing is, I would say, is if you are in the Keto Mans Club group on Facebook, tag myself, tag Alberto, tag us. Let us know, if you have a question or whatever. Fortunately, it's a very popular group, and occasionally we might miss a comment. So just tag us and try down that way.
Yeah, we at least I am either in front of a computer or have have my phone going, and so it doesn't take long. It doesn't take much to get a hold of me. So we are always at your disposal on some level. So reach out if you have a question or concern. In that regard, if you have a question that you would like to ask about the podcast, or maybe a question or topic like today, where we handle, or where we kind of dug into the more natural way to tackle testosterone repairing. I won't even call it replacement, because it's repairing and helping support the system. You can email us at ketomansclubpodcast@gmail.com. And you also can get to our website and link to everything through the ketomansclub.com. We've got links to all of our social media, all of our everything there. And so it's a great way to reach out. Any other parting shots?
All I want to say is, Jonathan, thanks for the schlong talk, and I can't wait to see you at
Yep, pretty much.
I was waiting for him to say that this whole time.
And it happened. Well, that's it for this week. We'll end right there.
Oh, God. Okay.
That's it for this week. Until next week. Eat, lift heavy, sleep, and repeat. Thank you for joining us for the Keto Mans Club Podcast. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Would you help us spread the word about the Keto Mans Club by sharing with your friends and family? We're available on all podcast platforms, so just search for Keto Mans Club and you'll find us. If you would like to connect with us, you can do so a number of ways. Our web address leads to our Facebook group, theketomansclub.com. That's TheKetoMansClub.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Keto Mans Club Podcast. Lastly, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out via email to KetoMansClubPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to hanging out with you again next week.